Hi all. I gave a list of about 11 things in the previous video which to some extent have influenced chess players' style generally, but I think I missed a key fundamental point which was actually about motivation, ego, personality clash. I think in particular this was encapsulated very strongly in the hypermodern revolution, when Tarrasch, who took some of the ideas of Steinitz and made it more even more scientific and maybe to the extent of being dogmatic, there was a personality clash between him and Nimzowitsch. I think he had mocked Nimzowitsch and he caused a bad reaction, and Nimzowitsch worked damn hard to try and become a better chess player than Tarrasch, and in the process he created a load of different openings, including the Nimzo-Indian. So this hypermodern theory, I know we're jumping the gun a bit, but I just the Nimzo-Indian was named after Nimzowitsch. And he wrote My System, and he talks about a lot of things like blockade, restraint and blockade, influencing the centre, from the side. Don't have to occupy the centre. So you see here, that also the pin as a strategic weapon was elevated in My System. But this big personality clash, because at the time people weren't being paid loads of money to invent a new way of playing chess. So what motivation would there be in terms of when a lot of men get together? It's ego. I see that on any chess server. If chess servers didn't have the rating system, people wouldn't be so enthused. They want to get more rating points. But back in those times, Tarrasch had offended apparently Nimzowitsch, so there was a huge personality clash. And if we look at ego and its influence for motivation, for creating these new waves of thought, new opening systems, we also see the tension that existed between Morphy and Staunton. Staunton refusing to have this match against Morphy, and probably that's why Morphy went absolutely crazy later after beating Anderson quite soundly. He just withdrew from chess. Maybe Staunton had affected him psychologically. Staunton's ego though was in other ways more positive, like the Staunton piece set design which we have nowadays, and also he organised the strong international tournaments which later maybe Morphy may have read the annotated games of Anderson. So we have there a personality clash, a tension, a clash of egos. And later on Capablanca and Alekhine, Capablanca, this lazy kind of womanizer, the stereotypical view of him, but obviously he did quite a bit of work on the game, but he did have time for other things like playing tennis. And so Alekhine worked like crazy because no one gave him a chance that he'd ever beat Capablanca, and so he had that motivation to try and beat Capablanca. And so and that's why when I mentioned before, it's almost as if there was the static and then there's the dynamic. Maybe it's so fundamentally different because in particular people's egos were at stake and they wanted to be different from their rival, their fierce rival. So this motivational theory may actually be at the crux, the very crux of a different wave of thought of chess. And you may have been wondering, why did I do a lot of videos about why have I criticised to a large extent the classic work Think Like a Grandmaster? I just don't trust it because it was the author Kotov had written a book prior to that about the Soviet dominance of chess and how it was a sign of great intellectual superiority almost, and I just don't trust the way it was written and the scientific emphasis. And maybe ego sometimes results in almost propaganda. If the old USSR didn't want to give decent ideas for strategic crush, and it was only like Bronstein's true annotated games, for example, collection, where we see what truly was going on. The GMs, they think about strategic crush, they don't think about trees. I think most GMs would say, yeah, we'll use that as toilet paper, that book, Think Like a Grandmaster. What do you think it is, Thinking Like Trees? When you actually play a Russian Grandmaster, You know, it's about strategic crush. That is the primary thing. Anyone can calculate. It's commodity. Why would you want to develop in a commodity area? Why would you want to buy a book which teaches you a commodity skill when, you know, you get a good knight outpost, you give your opponent no counterplay, and you slowly wear them down? You know, it's an effortless, riskless way of winning. Yeah? Why not just, you know, learn better positional play? So, you know, that's why I had, you know, a great cynicism about Think Like a Grandmaster. But now I think I understand now. You know, there's a lot of ego tied up in ideologies and how, you know, one wave, you know, goes into another wave, and the encapsulation of that is concrete personalities. And I think, you know, none was better shown than this tension between you know, Tarrasch and Nimzovich, and because of that, the chess world totally, you know, benefited, you know, a whole range of different hypermodern systems. So anyway, let's go back to the time of 1834 now, and look at Alexander MacDonald versus, you know, Labordonnais. So e4, c5, and Labordonnais so played the Sicilian defense, and we see, I don't know if we should take it from the white side actually, because this is quite interesting. White missed a clear winning opportunity. So we have here something which I wanted to show you, because this looks like, you know, the modern sort of Tarrasch variation. If we look at this position, it's like a Tarrasch variation. White's got that aggressive pawn chain, like in a lot of my blitz videos, and with it, you know, there's attacking opportunities, even this king movement. So trying to just maintain this strong pawn chain. So in a way, it's kind of, you know, modern looking. You know, even this knight a3 to c2, you know, it does support d4. So this is 1834, and black in effect castled into it. Although, you know, based on you know, the better pieces, ended up winning this h pawn. So if we turned on Ribka, it gives you know, better for black. But you know, something very interesting happened. A catastrophic blunder by black at one point in this game. I think it might have been here, bishop h6. So black was eating white up to this point, and should have played now h6 apparently. But I'm not sure if he put this on a certain depth. Maybe, you know, white is better. I don't know. Bishop takes. There's queen takes though. But what happened next, basically, I'm going to turn that off, is, you know, white actually played. Black actually played bishop h6, and then bishop h6, g takes h6. And here, if I give you 5 seconds, well, I'll give you 10 seconds. Can you see a brilliant move for white in this position? Sorry, after check, king h8. In this position, can you see a brilliant move for white? Obviously, I've stopped you at this point. I would like to note, though, that there was no actual time limit in this match. So it's unfortunate that MacDonald, who had this habit of, you know, spending even 1 or 2 hours on a particular move, he could miss this tactic. So it does show actually clear evidence, you know, maybe that, you know, Morphy was, you know, head and shoulders above his predecessors tactically in finding combinations, because there's a nifty move here. Okay, it's bishop takes h7 basically. So if king takes, there's check, and then there's mate on g7. And if anything else, say queen e7, then just the bishop retreats. And how is black, you know, defending h6? So that would have been fairly decisive, and he missed that. He missed it here as well. He could have just done bishop takes h7 here. So queen takes, queen takes, king takes, and now can you spot a silent killer move if I give you 5 seconds here? Okay, you know, rook g4, and how does black defend now? Simply against the king going to either g3 or g2 to mate black. There's hardly any defence. So this winning opportunity was totally missed. And now, you know, after rook g3, black started getting the better position, especially after the queens came off. e5 check, e4. So black's totally in control now. And better game, the f pawn is restrained. And now we see knight d8, rook a7. So e3, this pass pawn, check, king h6. Bishop takes, rook g3, So black now plays rook h2, and after king g5, e2. So this pawn's fairly decisive, and white is actually a piece down as well. So bishop h5, he gives it in, so he resigns. But I point this game out. It's not going to be pointed out in many references about this match, just because it looked like almost like a modern Tarrasch Defense variation from one of my blitz games, with white preserving that aggressive pawn chain. So even though black had won material, he was lucky that white didn't finish him off with this bishop takes h7 here. I think this has to be understood, that ego, personality clash, is at the root of motivation, which is at the root of change, which is why new openings, new territories, new ideas were often introduced. Please leave any comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much.